All right, today we're tackling a story that's, well, it's both powerful and incredibly tragic. It's basically a dark parable about what happens when pure, unchecked rage completely consumes a person, just drowning everything they once were. We're talking about the story of Lyra Omoto, the parable of the Crimson Tide. So let's just start with the core idea of her entire story, right here. You gotta understand, this isn't about someone just choosing a different path, you know? It's about a soul being forcibly drowned, just extinguished by this overwhelming ocean of rage. This one sentence, it sets the stage for everything that's about to happen. Okay, so to really get the full weight of this tragedy, you have to understand who Lyra Omoto was before everything went wrong. I mean, she wasn't just some warrior. No, she was a symbol, a shining example of discipline and order. And this metaphor is just, it's perfect. Think about it. A lighthouse doesn't go out and fight the storm, right? It just stands there. It endures it. It's a guide, a point of stability when everything else is chaos. That was Lyra. Her foundation was pure will, a beacon pushing back the darkness. And boom, here it is. This lays out the entire conflict of her story perfectly. On one side, you've got the lighthouse. That's everything she was: discipline, will, order. And on the other side, the storm. That's what she becomes, just pure, uncontrollable rage and chaos. The whole story really is about watching that lighthouse get completely swallowed by the storm. So now we get to the turning point. And for Lyra, you have to understand this fall from grace, it wasn't a choice. It wasn't a decision she made. It was more like an infection. It was the moment the red ring of rage showed up. I mean, the imagery here is just devastating. This isn't some slow erosion, right? It's a catastrophic, instantaneous collapse. Her entire foundation, that discipline, that will, it's just shattered in a moment. Everything she was gets swallowed whole by that crimson tide. And let's be super clear about this ring. This is not a tool. It's not a weapon you can just pick up and put down. It's a parasite. It literally replaces her heart, and then it turns her own body against her, creating this horrifying feedback loop of trauma. It's just endlessly pumping the fuel for her rage through her veins. And what exactly is that fuel? Well, it's not some vague, abstract anger. No, the ring is far crueler than that. It weaponizes the most specific, agonizing moments of her past. Losing her father, being abandoned by the guardians she served so faithfully, and having to watch her friends get murdered. Each memory becomes this constant, burning source of pain. So, with that fuel source locked in, the transformation is, well, it's complete. And the person who's left standing, it's not Lyra Omoto, the proud warrior of Jade. It's something else entirely. And make no mistake, this is not a power-up. It's a mutilation. Her entire biology is just violently rewritten. Her blood turns to liquid fire, her breath becomes corrosive napalm. She can't even speak anymore, because her entire being is now just a conduit for one thing: expressing rage through violence. And this is what's left. She goes from being that lighthouse, that symbol of order and discipline, to a wild animal. The fall is just absolute. She's been stripped down to her most basic, primal instincts, and now she's basically just a loyal hound for the god of rage, Atrocitus. And that brings us right back to where we started, to that first metaphor. The woman who once stood firm against the chaos has now become the chaos. She isn't wielding the storm anymore. The storm is wielding her. There's no Lyra left, there's only the rage. But, even in the middle of the most violent storm, sometimes a single light can flicker through. And this next part, man, it's the emotional gut punch of the whole story. It's this brief, absolutely heartbreaking moment of hope. So, her former ally, Hal Jordan, he shows up, he's there to bring her home. But what he finds is just a hollow shell. Can you imagine? He reaches out, trying to use his own willpower to somehow pull the friend he knew back from that abyss. And for just a fleeting heartbeat, it works. He gets through. This broken blade remembers what it felt like to have a hilt, to have a steady hand guiding it. For just 1 second, the rage wavers. And Lyra, the real Lyra, the will, the discipline, she remembers what it was like to be in control. And then, for the very first time since the fire took her, she speaks. Just 2 words. It's this tiny crack in the armor of rage, a desperate plea from the real Lyra, who's still in there, drowning, and just begging to be saved. Now, that one moment of hope, right? That desperate plea for help, that should have been her salvation. But instead, it sealed her fate. It leads directly to one of the most cruel, most senseless moments in this whole tragic story. Let's just break down how mechanically cruel this whole thing is. So first, Hope actually arrives. The Blue Lanterns show up, and they have the power to actually purge the rage and heal her. But just as they start, the tyrant Sinestro steps in. And he doesn't do it for some grand strategic reason. No, he does it out of pure, petty spite. And with one single beam, he ends it. So the creature that was made of living fire dies with nothing more than a quiet puff of smoke. She dies in Hal Jordan's arms. The rage is finally gone. Yeah, but only because she's gone. She died a victim, not of her own anger, but as collateral damage in someone else's petty war. So, what's the big takeaway here? Lyra Omoto's story isn't just a tragedy about death. It's a tragedy about the loss of self. It's a brutal reminder that a warrior's biggest fight is often the one they were never, ever trained for. And this final thought really it sums up her whole life, doesn't it? She had spent all this time learning how to fight everyone else, but she never learned how to fight herself. And the one time she finally finds the strength to surrender and ask for help, the world had no mercy left for her. It's just a brutal, heartbreaking end. So the key takeaways here are pretty stark. First, it's about the total loss of self. Lyra was used by the red light. She wasn't the one using it. It turned her into a weapon. And second, her death was the final, ultimate betrayal. She didn't fall in some grand battle. She was just casually taken off the board, a pawn in a game between other people. And all of that leaves us with one final, lingering question. Lyra's rage came from a real place, from genuine trauma and betrayal. You could even argue it was righteous. But in the end, all it did was hollow her out and get her killed. So it really makes you wonder, is there any rage, no matter how justified, that doesn't ultimately destroy the person who holds it? Definitely something to think about.